For anybody who is watching this on the recording, you're going to have to skip ahead. I started recording as soon as I logged on, so it's going to take a couple minutes. It's going to take 10 minutes for class to actually start, so you want to skip ahead to when you see me sharing my screen. Hello, you're going to be my guinea pig. Can you hear me, Lena? Nope, maybe you're not there. or maybe you can't hear me. Let me check my audio settings. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, and hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. If I didn't, you can correct me. But you also win the prize for being the first one here. Don't worry, you're not going to be the only one soon. you just get to be the guinea pig. Aha, see, here's somebody coming in. Hello, is this Itzel? Hi, Itzel. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
No, that's right. Hello.
Okay, hi. I'm like, those of you who jump in early, I get to chat with you a little bit before class. And I get to practice saying your names. Oh, don't worry, Lena. Totally okay. I know how that goes. So and at this time on campus, it is a little bit hard to find a spot, and because all the people that showed up for like noonish classes, they're all showing up and finding places to sit. Hi, let's see who just joined. Ariana? Am I pronouncing your name?
Yeah, it's Ariana.
Okay, great. I love when I look at the list of names of everybody enrolled, because I always find some really, like, some of your parents really came up with great names to give you all, and great spellings. Who was it? There was a name in one of my rosters. I forgot what it was. Instead of an I, they used instead of an I, they used a Y, and it gave the name like such prettiness. I was like, oh, they did good. How are you, the few of you here so far, doing? Is the first week going okay?
Yeah, it's really good.
Excellent. Yay. That's what I like to hear. I'm like, the first week should be the easiest. So it shouldn't be problematic, but sometimes there's problems of adding, dropping, or parking. Has anybody been on campus and seen how the parking situation is?
Yeah, like, that's really full compared to last year.
Aha. Okay. Does this mean that parking is nearly impossible? Or just hard?
No, it's just you're definitely going to have to walk farther, because I heard
okay.
all freshmen are allowed to bring cars this year.
Okay. Oh, were they not allowed before?
I think they were if they had a specific reason. I think this year you just got to do it.
Okay, because because last year we were more split in terms of more online classes than in-person classes.
I think in the morning it's just super easy to find parking. Like when I would get out of my afternoon class, like I would see a bunch of people circling the parking lot. But when I came in the morning, like for my 8 a.m. class, I just found parking like super quick.
Nope. Yeah. Okay, that was my experience before the pandemic. If I arrived like before 10, no problem. Anytime after 10, especially around noon, it was very difficult to find parking, even far away. Like I always was like, okay, I'll just go to the furthest away parking and see if I can get lucky. And one time I arrived 2 hours before my class started. That semester, one of my class started around noon, and I could not find parking. So this was even within the faculty staff lots, and could not find parking. I was almost late to my class. and I had to like illegally park somewhere I wasn't really allowed to park. So it can get really bad. But hi Jesus, I did see you jump in. So I always ask, I'm like, because I haven't been on campus since the pandemic started. It says you found parking as soon as you show. Good. And I'm like, okay, for people that show up early enough, it's not a problem. It's showing up around lunchtime that seems to be the hardest problem. But I was hoping with that, because we're still doing quite a few online classes, that that helps ease the parking situation a little bit. But we still have to be a little bit strategic. I'm like, okay, this class must have a lot more juniors and seniors, or like people that are more comfortable with Zoom that are going to jump in like just right before the class starts. But I see, oh, okay, here we go. A few more people jumping in. Hi, Claudia. And hi, Emily. And nice to see you. Hopefully the first week of classes is going okay. Hello. Hi, let's see, Christina. Even though we're online, I like one, working on all your names and chit-chatting before class starts. Has anybody had any issues in the semester yet, adding or dropping classes? Hopefully not. I have a few students trying to add my classes, but right now all my classes are full until and unless people drop. And let's see, people are coming in. Hi, Marissa. Now I'm not going to be able to keep up with people coming in. Kyle is connecting. Hi, Kyle. Oh, no, is it Kylie? Sorry, Kylie. See, I try to read things too fast. Hi, Rihanna. I see you all coming in. I'm saying hello to those of you I can catch. Hi, Brian. Hi, Robert.
Hello.
Hello. I'm just saying hi to everybody since you're all here a little bit early. Hi, Drea. Whoever's iPhone. If you could change your name on there so I can see who you are. If not, it's okay if you don't want to change it. You can just tell me in the chat your name. I'm not taking roll today or anything like that, but I'm trying to start getting to know everybody's names. So how many of you are on campus right now? You're sitting somewhere on campus? No?
I'm at
At
home.
least. Yeah?
I am.
Yeah, okay. I was like, I'm like, you can't turn on your camera. I know that the mic is a little harder to turn on because then we hear everything around you. But sometimes some of you will turn on your cameras while you're on campus, and I can kind of tell where you're sitting. I was telling people that were here a little bit early that I haven't been on campus since the pandemic started. So it's always nice to see campus through your cameras. Hi, everyone. See, now I lost track of everybody that came in, but I think we have Mario, Leslie, Diana, Jessica, Jose, Natalie, and Monica. Hi, everyone. See, there we go. At least react with an emoji. Good morning. Or you can just let me know in the chat like some of you are doing. Hi, everyone. Hi, let's see, Maria just came in, and I'm sorry if I missed anybody. Now I won't be able to keep track. Like it's 10:50. Is this anybody else coming in? We'll give people 30 seconds, but I do tend to get started right away. Hi, Isaac. So how many of you took classes over the summer? Did anybody do summer session? Whether you did it at Cal State LA or at another campus? Okay, Leslie did, a few of you. Those of you that took summer session, I'm like, you get to enjoy the summer less, or there's less of a transition from when you don't get quite as much rest in between semesters. So I always feel a little bit for you all, because I feel like if I don't get the summer off from teaching, it can be overwhelming to go from one semester to the other. Okay, now I see. See, now I've lost completely track of everybody who's in here, but it's good to see all of you. I'm gonna go ahead and get started, although I am recording this, so I'll say this a few times for the people that come in late, that this is being recorded so that you can go back in and watch it if you ever missed class, like you missed announcements or things I do at the beginning, then you can go back and watch. Okay, I'm catching up on the chat. A few of you did summer session. Yeah. So this is History 2050, Race and Ethnicity in U.S. History. I don't think anybody can be in the wrong Zoom because you wouldn't have gotten the Zoom link without having been enrolled in the class. But just in case anybody is clicked on the wrong Zoom, I like to announce that. I am Dr. Cardona, and it's our first day. So we're gonna focus on introducing you to the course and what my expectations are, basically going over the syllabus. We do have some freshmen in the class, so but also a lot of juniors and seniors. So those of you who are juniors and seniors are going to have to bear with me in some parts, because I can't assume that everybody knows, for example, how to find the class website. And right now, that's the one thing I need everybody to figure out how to do, is how to find the class website, because we will be using it extensively. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and walk you through really quickly just the first steps of how to find the class website. For those of you who might be new to campus. Okay, so now I am sharing my screen. There might be a little bit of delay for some of you, but it'll catch up. Okay, so the first thing is, or one of the easiest ways to do it, is to go to the Cal State LA homepage, calstatela.edu. And eventually, if you haven't done it yet, you're gonna want to bookmark your My Cal State LA page, right? So right here at the top is the My Cal State LA page. It's how you sign in to basically everything at Cal State LA. I've already signed in, so it's not asking me for my username and password, but it's your Cal State LA email and the password you created. If you have any problems with that, you should reach out to ITS. That's our kind of IT department that can help you with that. On the left-hand side, it's all these links. Right now, I have it like narrowed down to the things I use most often, but if I take that away, it shows you the full list of apps you have access to. Some of these, by the way, you might want to explore, because they might come in handy at some point during the semester. But the main thing you want to do to find the course website is go to Canvas. The link to Canvas. Here, any professor that is using Canvas is where you will find their website. Not everybody uses it, though I think most professors now use it, because now we've all had to go through online teaching. Our course here is going to have this image of black and white foggy image of the Statue of Liberty. That's our course. I made it live about a week ago, but only today did I make the first assignment live. And a few of you have already completed the assignment. There's something wrong with you. Not really, I'm joking, but I was quite surprised that a few of you have already done it. So everybody organizes their Canvas course a little bit differently. So I'm going to walk you through how mine is organized. The homepage I've just created to give you easy access to ways to reach me. One of the easiest ways to reach me, because it's an online class, is via email. And I am pretty good at responding to email. I always respond to student emails. And usually if I haven't responded to your email, it's because it's gotten lost to me. But if you ever need to, I can't figure out what my email is, it's always on the Canvas homepage, or you can just message me through Canvas as well. The other way, second easiest way to reach me is at office hours. This semester, my office hours are going to be Wednesday, 11 to noon, and then Thursday, 12:15 to 1:15. So basically, after our class on Thursday. If those hours don't work for you because you have other classes right after our class or things like other commitments, you can always make an appointment with me. You send me an email, you let me know that you can't meet during my office hours, but you'd like to meet, and I've never had a problem finding a time in which I can meet with a student. So never hesitate, because we're an all online class, and actually all my classes are online this semester, so I won't be on campus for for the semester, which means these are really the easiest ways to find me, and I do make myself available on Zoom when needed. Here you'll also find kind of just some quick links to the modules. This is under modules is where you will find all the material for the class. There's a couple of ways of accessing this through these links on the homepage, but also over here on the left, the navigation has the link for modules. If you're trying to get to the syllabus, which is what I'm going to be going over, you either click here on resources and syllabus, or you go to modules. And once you do that, it takes you to the very top first module I created, which is where I put the syllabus. So the first link here is the syllabus. Again, I know this is already common knowledge for many of you, but for the freshmen, I don't want to assume anything. So if there's something I skip going over or you have questions, please put them in the chat or go ahead and just turn on your mic and ask the question. This class is small enough that you can just turn on your mic and do that. Before I go over the syllabus though itself, I want to show you a little bit of what the modules, how I organize them and what I'm thinking here. I have some basic links here that are meant to help you. You might not need them now, but at some point during the semester, you might need them. I'll come back to that. But then I divide our semester by week. This is how my brain functions, and it helps me stay organized and keep on track of everything and make sure you know where everything is located on Canvas. So under every weekly module, you're going to have a link to our Zoom classes. All of our classes are going to be on Zoom, and we will be meeting probably every single week. Always assume we're meeting. If it's Tuesday, Thursday at 10:50, we're meeting unless something happens and I've sent out an email. Then I'm going to link whatever the reading assignment is for the week, and also what writing assignment you have to complete that week. A lot of you have already found this first assignment. You don't have any reading this week, but I'm asking you to introduce yourselves to me, and mostly because we're not going to have a lot of time to do these kinds of introductions. And also there are some things that you might want to share with me that you don't want to share with the whole class. So this is not a discussion board post. It's an assignment that only I will be seeing. Really quick, those of you who have already done it, I already know it's really quick, easy questions about you. One thing that I've noticed, a lot of people don't like adding a picture to their Canvas profile, but I'm going to give you my pitch for why you should. When I interact with you, right, when I see your discussion board post, when an assignment is submitted to me, I see your name, right? Canvas gives me your name. When I have a picture I can associate with your name, one, not only does it remind me that you're a human being, but it also allows me to start getting to know everybody, right? I put on here that I really recommend you put a picture, even if it's not a picture of yourself. Like I've had students already, some of you who just put pictures of like a flower, of a pet, of a landscape. It doesn't really matter to me. as long as you have an image, it helps me keep remembering your name. Right. So it helps a lot. And honestly, you do want your professors to remember you. You do. It's when they don't know who you are, right? They can't put a face to the name and to the student behind the work. It's easier to forget that student is human, and it's also easier to take off points. Like that's just human nature. So highly recommend you put a picture. Let me go back to the modules. I made that first assignment live. You can also be able to work ahead. Right now, I only have 2 modules that are visible to you all because some of you are already started working on it, and I wanted to prevent too much of that. But over the course of this week, I will be making pretty much all the modules for our class live. That does mean that you will have access to them, and whenever anybody wants to work ahead, like if you're like, okay, I'm having an easy week, I can get started on the reading for the following week. It's not a problem. It's already visible, available to you in my class. I don't mind when people work ahead. Very few ever do, but it's available for anybody that wants to. So, but this is basically how all the modules will look for our classes. You have the week. Next week is week 2. Link to the Zoom when the recording is ready. I post it under Attend. So a link to the recordings, you can always find them on Canvas. What the assigned reading is and when you should have read it by. So for example, this means that we're going to be discussing that reading on Monday of next week, this reading. So that's the work to do over the weekend, essentially, is to complete the Introduce Yourself assignment and to read chapter 2, The Tempest in the Wilderness. And then you'll have a writing assignment due at the end of the week. I'll come back to due dates and expectations in a second. But at the top, I have a few links. Some of these you're not going to need them yet, but one thing I put in here is a PDF for a journal, a planner. I just put the one for this company because they make it free for students. Any student could get a PDF from them for free. It's also the planner I happen to use, but you don't need to use the specific thing. But I do think that having some sort of way of organizing your time is hugely important. It's one of the main things you learn as a college student is how to manage your time. And that can get really hard if you're trying the semester to stay on top of assignments, to not procrastinate. You need to organize your time in some way. You need some sort of calendar, some sort of app, something that's going to help you with it. Just having the mentality or just making up your mind that you're going to not procrastinate the semester is not enough. You have to have a plan on how you're going to do that. So one thing I recommend is trying out different methods. This is one way of organizing your time. It might not work for you, or maybe it does. So I just want to emphasize that staying organized is the one thing you want to keep working on throughout your time at Cal State LA. Also, that the school still has the laptop and hotspot loan program. So if you need a computer, if you need to borrow a computer from the school, or you need to borrow internet from the school, those are still available. A lot of times they'll say like, okay, you had to have applied by a certain date. But even when they give you a deadline, they usually still have laptops and hotspots that they can loan out even after. Because things happen. Right? Maybe at some point during the semester, your computer crashes, something happens, it gets stolen, you need a computer. The university can help with that. Tutoring Writing Center, we're going to be doing a lot of writing in this class, and every single time we write something, it's really great when somebody else can give us feedback on it. I'll be offering you feedback, but if you're too scared to come to me, the Writing Center is other students at Cal State LA giving you advice on it. I also want to highlight that the Student Health Center provides a lot of resources to you all. If you don't know about them, you want to explore the website, get to know what kind of services they provide, because they provide basic healthcare, like they can do a checkup. They can do some basic things. If you need birth control, they offer birth control. For most of you, it's either going to be free or low cost. They also offer mental health services, therapists and psychiatrists that you can meet with. Sometimes they get really booked ahead of time, but they are available. They have workshops on how to manage your stress. They have access to massage appointments you can make there. Anyways, lots of different kinds of health resources for you, and you should make use of it. We also have a food pantry. It's kind of frustrating that they always have limited hours. So the main thing with the food pantry is knowing when they're open. They're located at the Student Union 3rd floor, but they're open only Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 10 to 2. So you just want to make sure you know their food hours. So that's why I put the link here. Even if you don't need these resources now, at some point you might need them, or you might know somebody who needs them. And then the last link I have here is emergency housing. There is a lot of our students end up needing housing at some point while they are students at Cal State LA. And so the university does have a program. If you find yourself with nowhere to stay, we have dorm rooms that the university can offer as emergency housing. This is not a long-term solution to where you're going to live, but it's something, if you need immediate help, that the university can provide. Right. And in order to be eligible, you just have to be a currently enrolled student in good standing with respect to student conduct. So, you can't be in the process of being expelled or, in trouble otherwise. But again, even if you don't need it, someone at some point might need it. And so I just like having those links up to remind you. Okay, syllabus. So the link here is to a PDF. So I'm going to go to just my file of the syllabus here. At the top, again, just a reminder that this is a fully online class. So it's not hybrid. We will not be in person at any point. And this is U.S. history, right? It's U.S. history from the beginning of U.S. history, which typically we start teaching U.S. history somewhere around 1400, which is actually kind of late, but for about 1400 to the present, that is a whole lot of U.S. history, right? I'm actually teaching a 2020 class, and usually, like for U.S. history, we divided. One semester you can take U.S. history from the first half, and the second half another semester. But for this class, we jam-packed it with all of U.S. history, but focused on the themes of race and ethnicity. Okay, that means though that I can't cover everything in U.S. history. I just can't. So I have focused on topics that deal with race and ethnicity and give us a good understanding of American history. Right. The reason a lot of you are probably here is because this covers the GE requirement for race and ethnicity, as well as the lower division requirement for American institutions. So you get several GEs, a couple of different GEs checked off. Required text. So there was a change in professors last minute. Sometimes this happens because professor schedules change, administrative issues change. I hate when this happens, but I got assigned to this class last minute. So I changed the readings. I just Stand from the Beginning is a good book. I haven't used it in class before, and I'm not ready to use it. So I'm going to use the text that I typically use in this class. Some of these you can find at the bookstore if you want. However, you don't have to. Thanks to a class like a couple of years ago, I scanned the PDFs of every single reading I'm assigning. So you don't have to buy either one of these books if you don't want to. Some of you might have already purchased the books. What do you do in that case if you purchase the books that the previous professor assigned, Dr. Dennis? Well, you can return them to the bookstore. Because there was a change in professor, you just have to tell them that, and they'll be able to see on their computer system that there was indeed a change in professor, and that should make sure they don't give you any trouble accepting a return. You should be able to return books and get all of your money back. If anyone goes to the bookstore or anticipates there might be any issue, I can always write you a message. I've had students do this in the past. They ask me, hey, I'd like to return the book. Could you help me out? And usually I just have to write you an email that says, I'm not using the book in my class. Could you please accept this return? And then they have no problem accepting a return for a book. Yeah, Ivan has a good question on the chat. Will I make the PDFs available to you when you need them? Yes, I make them available ahead of time. So like, for example, right now, when you go to Canvas, right, you will be able to see under week 2, next week, we're reading a chapter from one of the books from a different mirror. Well, the PDF is already there. And if you click on it, you can read it off of Canvas, or you can download the PDF and read it on your computer, or send the PDF to your Kindle, or even print it if you prefer to have the physical copy. Yeah, if you're somebody who just prefers having the physical book, I can tell you that we are reading most of A Different Mirror. There's only like 2 or 3 chapters in A Different Mirror that we're not reading. And I'm just reaching for the book, which is on my shelf here. It's this one. Any edition of A Different Mirror should work. I think this one has several editions, but we are reading large chunks of it, like most of it. The other one, Medical Apartheid, we're reading about 3/4 of it. We're not reading every single chapter in it, but we're reading 3/4 of it. So like if you're a history major, you might want to buy it. If it's a topic that interests you, you might want to buy it, but otherwise you can get by with just the PDFs. Are there questions on the books? Anybody by any chance has tried returning anybody that had already purchased the books? Has anybody tried returning them? No, okay. I'm going to assume there's no problem unless somebody tells me, right? You can always send me an email and let me know if there's a problem. In fact, I want to know if there's ever a problem with this kind of stuff, because it's something that I can easily, I can call the bookstore and be like, hey, you need to help my student. Mm-hmm. You can buy these books online. So I've checked on Amazon, and because especially A Different Mirror is widely used in college courses, you should be able to buy used copies of it. They are both, I think you can find copies of both of these books under $20 online, or somewhere around the $20 mark. What else are you saying? Can we buy the... Yeah, so you there should both be available online. Okay, most important part, or the thing that most of you care about, is grade breakdown. Basically, what work you're going to have to submit to to pass this class. So almost every week, especially in the first half of the semester, every week you're going to have some sort of written assignment. Typically, it's in the form of a discussion board post, where I ask you somewhere around like 5 to 8 questions based on the reading and based on the class discussion. They tend to be easy if you've done the reading and you've attended class. Sometimes even if all you did was attend class, you can get enough of what you need to answer those discussion board questions. Those make up 35% of your grade, because it's one of the main things we're going to be doing. It's how we're going to be, how I'll be checking that you've attended lecture, that you've done the reading. You're going to have a midterm that's going to take place. It's going to be a paper. So it's not really more a midterm. So it's a paper you're going to have to write. It's a research paper based on a website and primary sources that I'm going to give you. You're going to have a choice as to what sources specifically you use, but it's about nursing and racism in the nursing field. For anybody that is in the sciences, this is really important stuff. I think anybody, especially if you're going to go into nursing or really any job in the medical field, medical history is really important. And you typically don't get taught medical history in nursing school or in med school. We're gonna do quite a bit with it here. At the end of the semester, I'm also going to ask you to watch a documentary and then write an analysis of it. The documentary is called Belly of the Beast, and it's about the forced sterilization of people in prison. Stephanie has an excellent question in the chat. Will all Zoom classes be recorded? Yes, unless there's some sort of technology issue. Like, knock on wood, it hasn't happened too often, but you can always go back and watch the recordings. Even if you were in class, this is for everybody. In fact, most people that go back and watch the recordings have told me it's people who have attended class, but they are sitting down to write their discussion board for the week, and like they've forgotten or they didn't take good notes. Well, you can pull up the recording and watch while you are writing the discussion board questions. I found students have found that it is useful, and I see no reason why we shouldn't make that available to everyone. So these are papers. These are big papers that you're going to be working on. You'll see that for the research one, you're going to do a rough draft and then a final draft. And then you're also going to, I'm forcing all of you to meet with me at some point this semester. Partially because this is an online class, and this is one of the ways I get to know you and to meet you and to make sure that you're staying on track. It's also a way that I can catch if there's something students are not understanding. This is one way in which I catch it when we're chatting with you all. And once I know somebody is really confused about a topic, I know that there are other people who are also confused on it. And so I can go back and fix that. You only have to meet with me once during the semester. So you could show up to my office hours tomorrow, Wednesday. I have office hours from 11 to noon. You could show up and get it done. 10% of your grade is done. A few people get it over with soon, but some of you might want to wait for that, and like right before the final draft of one of the papers is due, meet with me, bring your draft, and we can do it that way. There's no topic set. You don't have to prepare for these meetings in any way, shape, or form. You just show up to the meeting, and I ask you, hi, how's class going? How are you doing? Let's look at your grade. Or just, like, hey, what are you excited about in this class? I do all the preparing for these meetings. You just have to show up and be yourself. That's it. That is it. So you can't get an A in this class. You can't without meeting with me at some point in the semester. Let's see, any questions about this part? The percentage in here are all, you can see what the breakdown of them is. And the Canvas activities I will be making live in the next couple of weeks for you all. If you want a quick idea of what each of these like papers is, I did quick summaries of them here. So I won't go over those again, but a few announcements. If you are not registered with the OSD office and you think you will need accommodations in my class, please make sure that you go and register with the OSD office, because they do all the communication with me. This way you don't have to tell me anything about what you need. They tell me, I implement the accommodations, and that's it. And anybody that is already registered with the OSD office, you don't have to do anything. They've already let me know. But if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me or to the Office of Students with Disabilities, and they can communicate with me. because this is an all online class, right? And it's 40 students, but I find that 40 students actually, like, any more than that, it might be a problem in an online class. But I'm going to be asking you to have discussions, to participate. At some point in discussion board posts, I might ask you about your personal experiences, and I never force you to share something you don't want to share, but I want people to feel comfortable sharing those things. We're going to be talking a lot about race and ethnicity, and some of those topics can be uncomfortable, like they just can. Or people are worried about being politically correct or saying the wrong thing. And in my class, I need you all to be able to talk, to discuss, and to go through, like, let's talk about the uncomfortable topics. So I ask that everybody be respectful. So no being disrespectful. I think that's pretty basic. I've never had a problem with it in my classes. So hopefully I will not here. I'm getting to the question that was just asked in the chat. We're on Zoom, right? I will be recording every class, so you can always go back and rewatch them. I do think that there's nothing like being live in class to participate in discussions, because that's a lot of times you all are learning from each other from the questions you ask. The questions your classmates are asking, things that come up in discussion. I've taught this class a couple of different times, and every group of students comes up with different ways of looking at the material. But like I said, some of you are home, and some of you might be home with siblings, pets, a whole thing in the background. It's okay. You're in my office. You're seeing my office. My pets are being well behaved at the moment, but from time to time they're not. And like, what are we going to do? Right? I've had people whose parents are walking in the background, totally fine. Some of you have already told me that you're on campus right now because you're taking some classes in person and some online, and you're on campus, so it's loud and it's harder to turn your mic on. or you might not want to turn your camera on. I want to encourage you to turn your camera on because I like seeing faces, right? Rather than black squares. But realistically, I'm like, I've come up with, my attitude is just like, I can't force you to turn your camera on. I mean, I could threaten you with a grade, I suppose. I'm not going to force you to turn your camera on, but I encourage you to. So that way I can see your faces. Otherwise, when I see you on campus, at some point I'm going to be back on campus. When I see you on campus, I'm going to have no clue who you are. So it helps me get to know you if you turn your camera on. But that's based on your comfort level. So I think that answers the question in the chat. Yeah, and also, like, even in person, I always said, like, if one day the babysitter falls through and you have to bring your kid to class. I've had people who would bring their kids to class, not all the time, but when emergencies happen, and I was like, yeah, bring the kid to class. I'd rather you come, be here for the material, and your kid, as long as we're not discussing something that you're not comfortable with your kid hearing, all is good on my end. So if you're on Zoom and you have a child on your lap, hey, you're here trying to pay attention. I think that's valuable and important. So I will take it, and maybe the child will learn something too. Communication. I already talked about how I'm really good at answering email, but sometimes I'm not, right? If there's something going on, if I'm not near my computer. So give me at least 48 hours on weekends to respond. If that time has passed and I still haven't answered your email and you need a response from me, write me another one. Double check that the email is spelled correctly, or use Canvas, but write on the subject box, write follow up, so that I know that you've already tried sending me an email, that this is your second one, and that way I can prioritize your email, right? I should have started actually with this next thing. What do you call me? What's the safest thing? I'm going to let you guys answer it. I'm going to let the juniors and seniors answer. What's the safest thing what title to call your professors? What do you all use? You need to write an email to the professor and you're going to say, dear so-and-so, what do you say?
Doctor?
There we go. I'm like, somebody's got to be brave enough. Doctor is a pretty safe title to use. Now, if you're reading my syllabus, you know that that's what I've suggested you call me. Most of your professors at Cal State LA have PhDs. And for somebody that has a PhD, the appropriate title is doctor. But not everyone, not all of your professors will have PhDs. Sometimes they just have their master's or they're working on their PhD or their master's. So it is always, always safe to address your professors as professor, Professor Cardona, Professor so-and-so. Always safe, it's appropriate. I put in doctor one because I kind of like the title. My siblings stopped calling me doctor on day one after I received my PhD, but I'm proud of it, right? I'm proud of having received my PhD, and the number of Latina women with PhDs, it's below 5%, below 5%. So I'm proud of that achievement. And I always tell students, if you don't call me doctor, I will not get offended in any way, shape, or form. But if you're trying to butter me up and ask me for something, calling me doctor is not going to hurt. Sometimes, especially, I've noticed, especially freshmen, because you're used to calling your teachers Miss or Mr. You'll try using that with me. I will not get offended. I will not get offended. But some professors might. When I was a student, I had professors who were very specific about how they wanted to be addressed. So it's a good idea to just always use either professor or doctor when addressing one of your professors. Okay, this is important. If you've fallen asleep, wake up. I've been using this for a few years now, and it really works. Sometimes you need to submit the work late. It just happens. And so I started giving students the option of using what I call the life happens clause. The life happens clause. Really quick, I want to do something. If you already called one of your professors Miss or MS or Mrs., any of that, don't worry. Don't worry. Don't be scared. Next time, use professor or doctor, but we all get it. We all get it. Okay, the life happens class. This is something I use in my classes where I give you 3 extra days to submit an assignment. No questions asked. You don't have to tell me a story about how your dog ran away, you were chasing it, and then a car came through and you broke your ankle. You can explain to me why you need the extra time, but you don't have to, because sometimes it's just that you have 3 different assignments due one weekend and you procrastinated, and now it's too much work to complete in a short amount of time. I've been there as a student. So this is, you don't have, if all you need is a couple of extra days to complete an assignment, then I want you to take it. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Take the extra days instead of not submitting it. My attitude with late work is that I will take it. I will take it. I will accept it. I will grade it. It might be penalized. If it's really late, I might penalize it. And that, I think that's fair. But I think most of the time it's worth it to still complete an assignment, even if it's going to be late, especially if it's one of the larger assignments in the course. Attendance and participation. Like I already did the spiel on this. I think it's useful, especially if you don't like history or it's not your strongest subject. I think it's worth your time to show up live to the classes, because I try to explain things very clearly. And I think I do a really good job of breaking down subjects that are tend to be too complex, too theoretical, and just simplify them for you. So I think I can help you with that. I'm going to scroll down to the schedule, because this is how I organize the Canvas, right, by weeks. So you can use the schedule if you're like, okay, I have my planner ready. I need you to tell me when all the assignments are due so that I can put them in my planner, and I don't want to wait for you to put everything on Canvas. Everything's in this schedule. I'm going to be putting everything that's here on Canvas. So the things you want to know here is, for example, when an assignment is due, right? So let's say next week. Next week, I'm asking you to read a chapter by Monday, and then you have a discussion board. But notice that the discussion board post is not due during the week. It's due at the end of the week on Sunday, right? So for this first week 2 assignment, a discussion board is going to be due Sunday, what is it, the 5th, the 4th, September 4th. My brain functions breaking the weeks, the semester down into weeks. And then for me in my brain, the week starts Monday and it ends Sunday. Right? Does that make sense? This can be one of the most confusing things in my schedule. But I've tried to be clear, and always Canvas will have usually the correct date. If I ever screw up a date on Canvas, somebody can usually send me an email and I will correct it immediately. The readings are due on the date in which they're assigned, right? So, because that day I want to discuss what's in this reading, right? The thing you might want to look at this part of the syllabus for too is the topics we're going to cover in here. So you already know, you signed up for a class about race. So I don't want to hear people complaining that we talk too much about race and ethnicity in this class. You already know that part. What you don't know is that I'm an expert in kind of the history of science and health. I wrote my dissertation on the abortion movement in France during the 1970s. So abortion is a topic, the history of abortion is a topic I know a lot about, as well as eugenics, forced sterilization, all these things. So we're going to be talking about those topics in this class. But before anybody freaks out about these topics, we're talking about the history of these topics. That makes a whole lot of difference. When we have political arguments about these topics, we forget that there's a history. And that's the main thing I emphasize. I don't care what your political beliefs are, you should know the history, period. So for example, we're going to start off beginning, we will talk about myths in American history. So we'll talk about some of the political debates that are happening right now. Like, was Jefferson really that terrible of a person? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, I'll say a few things on Thursday about critical race theory and why it's become such a big deal that legislators, that lawmakers are trying to pass laws about how US history gets taught in K through 12 classrooms, and even in some colleges. They're trying to regulate how it gets taught. So we'll talk a little bit about why this kind of class is ending up being so political right now. So we're starting at the beginning of US history. We're going to talk about colonialization, right? Ideas about Native people, and then how that contrasts with the reality. We're going to talk about, why this date 1619, because it's now associated with the 1619 project, has become so important and controversial, and why it matters where we start the story of US history, whether it's 1619 or 1796, what using those dates tell us, and what it leaves out when we use those dates. Slavery and the founding fathers. I'll have a lot to say about some of these topics. We're going to talk about slavery and gender too, about how women fit into a slave system. About Western expansion, right? We're going to start the story of the US and the East Coast. I kind of hate starting it that way, but we're going to do it for simplicity's sake. And then we're going to bring in the West and talk about what's happening in California, because we always forget there were things happening in California, even as Europeans were arriving in the East Coast. And immigration is going to be a significant topic in our class. Different waves of immigrants, from immigrants from Latin America to Asian immigrants, Indian immigrants. We're going to talk about different waves of those. We're going to talk about the Civil War and, more importantly, Reconstruction. Reconstruction, in a lot of ways, is even more important to understanding how our country looks the way it does, how it's organized the way it does today. Reconstruction is actually the key to understanding today. The world wars, how the world wars impacted race relations in the US, right? Again, the class is race and ethnicity, so everything is going to be around the topic of race and ethnicity. The civil rights movement, including Malcolm X and the Black Power movement. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So we're going to spend quite a bit, and we're not just going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr. and the nonviolent direct action. We're going to talk about the Black Power movement. And then suffrage, about women getting the vote. I want to include that and what race has to do with women getting the vote. The birth control movement in the United States. And again, race is an important topic to understanding the birth control movement, and eugenics, the forced sterilization of different groups of women, including Indigenous women, Black women, Latina women. All of these things we're talking about it. And we're going to talk about Roe v. Wade and the history of abortion. Again, before anybody panics about these topics, it's the history of them. And they're some of my favorite topics because the way I like to frame these topics, I think it will give you a different perspective if you've never thought of it this way. And then we'll end with that documentary, which is, by the way, a really good documentary that most people don't have access to at the moment. One of the things I hate about documentaries is the way in which, they're expensive and they're not always available for free online for most people. But we're going to be watching that here. Okay, questions. What questions or concerns do you have right now? What if you can't show up to a class Zoom? Someone asked in a direct message to me in the chat. It's up to you. It's up to you. Honestly, if you already know that you're going to be missing a lot of live Zooms, but you're comfortable with the topics we're going to be talking about, it is possible to pass the class and just watch the recordings. I have had students who do that and who do it successfully, but it's usually students that are already comfortable with the material and will actually watch the recordings. If you know yourself and you know you're not good at doing things, kind of scheduling when you're going to watch the recordings and actually doing the work on your own, then that's going to be more of a problem. You're going to have a harder time. So this is where I ask you to be honest with yourself about what you can do and what you cannot do. Isaac has a question about the final. Everything will be online. Yes, everything will be online. The final is a paper. It's a paper. So it's not a multiple choice test or an essay exam. It's not timed, nothing like that. All of the assignments for this class are going to be like take home essay, you work on them and submit them online. Where were you? Claudia asked an excellent question. Like for example, with this class, right? I'm recording this. After this class, the file will do its thing. I like to upload the file from Zoom onto YouTube. Students in the past have told me they like when the links are on YouTube. So once that is all ready, I post the link on Canvas. So under modules. So this recording, like today's recording, will be under week 1. right under attend, under the link of the, this is where I put them. It'll be there. And some from time to time, I might forget, like something happens, my dogs are doing something and I forget. All you have to do is send me an email, remind me, hey, professor, I noticed the link for the recording's not up yet. Could you post it? And I usually takes me under an hour to make sure the file doesn't is uploaded and then visible to you on the Canvas website. Yeah, so it'll be in here. In fact, I'll show you on Tuesday when we Thursday when we meet, I'll show you where like the recording for today is located. That's an excellent question. Other questions? Okay, so a few of you then need to tell me, what are you most excited to learn in this class, or what are you most interested in learning in this class? I know a lot of you don't like history. I assume most of you are not history majors, but some of you are or might be thinking about it, and some of you do like history. So you can tell me, what are you most interested in learning in our class? And then I can tell you whether we're going to do it or not. Like, why? Why did you sign up for a class on race and ethnicity in US history?
I think that I'm mainly interested in like the racism in nursing because I am getting my prereqs right now. So, and it's still a problem today. So I think it's really important to learn about.
Excellent. I love when I have nursing students, pre-med students, all of you, because I'm like, you are going to be doing a really important job, but it is such an important issue. Yeah. So yeah, that most of that research you're going to be doing on your own, but what I'm going to have you do is looking at testimonies of people that work in the nursing field, and they're going to talk about their experiences in nursing. So it'll be a great way for us to talk about primary sources and especially like interviews of people and what a great resource they can be, and also some of the problems they offer for historians when somebody tells us their story. Yeah. So I'm glad when I have some of you medical field folks. What else? Sebastian says, I'm interested in learning about how race and ethnicity play into building and shaping the US. Okay, let me ask you guys this. I might ask you again on Thursday. In K through 12 education, so this is not counting any history classes you might have taken in college, right? So K through 12. How much did your history teachers talk about like race and ethnicity? Was it something that was talked about quite a bit? Or not at all? I'm assuming like most of you probably went through K to 12 in Los Angeles. So I assume you got some discussions of race and ethnicity, right? Like slavery at the very least, the civil rights movement at the very least, but only when necessary, from what I remember, very little, only in the AP US history. I'm like, AP US history should have touched on that. So that's at least very vague. Man, okay, this is the problem with how we've taught history and how race and ethnicity has been acknowledged by historians as an important part of history, period, of how we study history since the 1960s and 70s, which is when historians first started studying those topics. It's not that race and ethnicity didn't matter before, it's that the way we study history and who studies history was very gendered and based on race. It was primarily white men writing the history of other white men in politics. But since the 70s, we've done such expansive job of making these important topics in the field of history, but it doesn't always trickle down to how it gets taught in K through 12 schools. One, because you need curriculum, right? K through 12 teachers are already overburdened. They're doing way too much and they don't get paid enough. So I don't blame teachers. they're not getting the training they need, and they're not getting the material they need. It's not their fault. So it takes too long sometimes for what historians do when they're writing books and they're doing research for that information to be put in a way that can be taught in K through 12 schools. So there is still a problem out there. But I mean, some of you had to have had really good history teachers that talked about it. I'm like, raise your hand. Tell me at least, do you think you had a history teacher that did a good job with race and ethnicity? Okay, I'm like, someone, anyone? Okay, one person. And then Stephanie says, only when you took sociology. Sociologists have done a great job with it, more than history. Because one of the things that has struck me is like, why do we need to have a course, right? In the history department at Cal State LA, that is race and ethnicity in US history. Why isn't it already part of the US history sections? Well, what students have done is that, have said is that there's not enough. There's not enough. And it's actually thanks to students that we have things like Chicano studies, African American studies, Asian American studies, ethnic studies, essentially. It's thanks to students demanding these classes and that these topics be taught that we now offer them. Emily says, when you took world history class last fall, aha, I'm like, most of my colleagues, I think, do a good job with this now. So I'm like, it's different once you take college classes. I think college professors have started doing a better job with it. Robert says that you would like to hear about how the US abolished slavery, but then we have the largest prison population in the planet and still use free prison labor built on laws and police tactics that primarily focus on people of color. Yes, we will be talking. I don't do as much with that, but we will actually be talking, especially when we get to the documentary, about the prison system and why the prison system represents such a big problem on these topics. Yeah, and I'll recommend some of the documentaries that you can watch. Okay, I will stop here. I will not. I'm like, I could have you introduce yourselves, but live in class. But since I'm having you do it on Canvas, that's the thing to remember, that you can always go ahead. The introduce yourself assignment is live. You can do it. You don't have to wait till Sunday to do it. Right? If you go under week 1, you do have this assignment to do this this weekend, but you can go do it today, get it out of the way, and then it's done. Right? A few of you have already done it, so it takes a few minutes, and then you're done. Great question. So hold on a second. Let me just catch up on the chat. I have a teacher that was a veteran, and he was only open on the truth on how the military functioned. That's what I have found with students I've had who have been veterans, that they've been very open about critiques of the military. Okay, how do you turn in an assignment? Somebody asked in the chat. So I want to really quick before I let you go. So this is how you will turn it in. So this one, introduce yourself, for example. This is the prompt. You go to start assignment. Start assignment, and then a text this box comes up underneath, and you can choose. You can like open up a Word file or a Google Doc file, write your responses on like Google Docs, and then copy and paste it here or upload the file here. Right, that's the safest way to do it. You can go into text entry. If you go into text entry, this box comes up and you can start typing it here. You know, you go 1, and then you're like, what's the question number 1? Tell me about yourself. And then you can answer the question. The tricky thing with this, if you use the text box, is that if there's a technical problem with your computer or with Canvas, you could lose everything you wrote. So I recommend you, open up another, either a Word document, a Google Doc, whatever you like to use to write, and like I'm going to open up my Google Docs right now. Type it somewhere like Google Docs where you can save it, and then see, you can type it up here, and then submit it here. That way, smaller risk of you losing your work, right? So like if you write your answers on Google Doc, you can submit the link here, or use Google Drive, Office 360. Oh, I haven't made Google Drive available. I can make that available. You can save the file on a PDF or a Word file and then just upload it here, right? Or you can copy and paste it into the text entry. That's how you submit this first assignment, right? Right now, don't worry about the other ones. I will walk you through next week, for example, how you submit a discussion board post. Right now, you just have to worry about this one. And like I said, just make sure you you minimize the risk of losing all your work. Does that make sense? Or clear as mud? Okay. Excellent. Then I will let you go today, and I will see you back on Zoom on Thursday. You're all free to go.
Bye.
Bye. Have a
Thank you,
good rest of your
Professor.
days. Good luck with the rest of the week too.
Professor, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Have a good day. I love seeing all your, the goodbye messages. Questions? Does anybody have any questions or concerns? No? No questions or concerns? Okay, I'm going to end the Zoom then.